Walking back into the U.S. today, the family reunion for this deported Marine and what's next for him.
We realize that if we're perceived as immigration officers and people that are in this country undocumented, if they perceive us as immigration officers, it makes us all less safe.
As people in the South Bay rally to save the Dreamers, San Diego prepares for the new sanctuary state law.
It's a way for people to escape their problems, what's happening at home or what's happening in general.
On a picture-perfect winter day in San Diego, the creative outlet that lets kids connect in City Heights. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. A deported Marine veteran who spent the last 15 years in Mexico was able to return to the U.S. today. Marco Chavez crossed through the San Ysidro port of entry, greeted by family and supporters. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero has the story.
Marco Chavez came to the U.S. when he was a year old and got a green card. He served 4 years as a Marine and was honorably discharged. After a criminal conviction for animal cruelty tied to beating up a dog, he was deported. But he got a second chance when he became one of 3 deported veterans pardoned by Governor Jerry Brown earlier this year.
I was in disbelief. I believe it now. I'm over here. I got the paperwork, and thanks to Nathan Fletcher here for getting me that pardon.
Nathan Fletcher, a county supervisor candidate and defender of deported veterans, also spoke to the crowd.
We're here today because a group of people said if you were willing to die for a country, that country would not leave you behind.
Chavez was greeted in San Ysidro by his father, Antonio. He teared up as he told the crowd in Spanish that he was grateful.
I'm so happy for what these people did for me and my son.
Chavez will be living in Los Angeles with his father and will try to see his 3 children and 2 grandchildren who live outside of the state. An immigration judge allowed him to return under restored green card status. He is now eligible to apply for citizenship. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
South Bay leaders demand action. They gathered today to pressure Congress to protect Dreamers. They rallied outside Chula Vista City Hall this morning. Earlier this year, President Trump rescinded an executive order protecting nearly 800,000 people who were brought to the U.S. illegally. He gave Congress a March deadline to come up with a new plan. The fight to protect Dreamers is also in the courts. A federal judge is reviewing lawsuits trying to block the president's order. Starting next month, California will be a sanctuary state. This new law aims to protect millions of immigrants who are living and working illegally from deportation. KPBS reporter Allison St. John spoke with Sheriff Bill Gore about what it all means for San Diego.
Sheriff Gore, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So right now, the Sheriff's Department, you've got a long history of cooperating with the federal law enforcement here in San Diego. And right now, you can inform ICE if you're releasing somebody from jail so they can take them into federal custody. Will that cease in January?
It will cease in a lot of cases. The SB 54, the Values Act, defines what violations that these undocumented people in our jail must have been convicted for. And if they've got a prior conviction for one of 800 serious or violent offenses, basically is what it boils down to, then we can notify ICE at the date and time of their release, and they will take custody of them in our facility. Or if they've been charged with one of those offenses and gone before a magistrate for a judicial finding of probable cause, and they're going to be released maybe on bond, then we can still notify ICE if they want to take custody of them.
Can you give us some examples of those 800 crimes that you would still be able to cooperate and some of the ones which you would not?
Sure. Your serious and violent offenses, any your murders, your rapes, the typical violent crimes that we read about in the newspaper. It's pretty all-encompassing. There's some that I think law enforcement, sheriffs in particular, would have liked included. Domestic violence, misdemeanor domestic violence, misdemeanor DUIs, driving under the influence.
Those are not included?
They're not included. And I think those are crimes that are concerning to me, and I think they impact public safety. But Values Act came a long way from where it was. I think we can make it work. Actually, the first part of it, as far as my deputies and police officers enforcing immigration laws in our community, none of us want our deputies doing that or our police officers. We realize that if we're perceived as immigration officers and people that are in this country undocumented, if they perceive us as immigration officers, it makes us all less safe. They're afraid to report crimes. They're afraid to be witnesses to crimes. And it creates a whole subculture. And the estimates I hear, 200,000 to 300,000 people in this county are without documentation. We can't let that happen.
I understand that there are currently some ICE officers stationed inside the county jail booking facilities. And at least one other sheriff's department in the state, up in Monterey, I believe, have no longer really provide any space for the ICE officials in their county jails. You know, they're prohibited right now, according to the law. The law says law enforcement agencies are prohibited from providing office space exclusively dedicated for immigration authorities. So
what we're going to do, we will have common space in there. But it says specifically dedicated to immigration enforcement. But we have common space where San Diego police officers, FBI agents, DEA, other law enforcement agencies will be in there. And ICE will be allowed to be in there, but they won't have assigned desks. They will not have permanent space.
Earlier we spoke with one of ICE's acting directors who said that as a result of this law, he was concerned that his officers were going to have to, instead of just going to the jail and picking up someone who was being discharged, go into the neighborhoods and do more general sweeps, and that could affect the general neighborhood.
And that's a concern of mine. And I sat with General Kelly when he was the head of Homeland Security. He was out here in San Diego. And he made it very clear, if that's what they have to do and they go into that house to look for that person that they want to deport, they're going to scoop everybody else up in that house that they feel is in the country illegally and deport them at the same time.
Do you expect to see more of those at-large arrests?
I think we're already seeing that now with more field operations by ICE. They have their rules and regulations and their marching orders from Washington, D.C., and I respect that. It's a tough job they have. I'm really concerned about overall public safety in our neighborhoods. In our neighborhoods, more safe or less safe when ICE is out there maybe doing raids in our community? Would it be safer for them to take custody inside of our facility when they're released? We can't keep anybody past their normal release date. There's been laws and federal decisions that have given us guidance there. So when you serve your federal time, we're going to release you. And my position on a lot of these has been it's safer for them to take custody in our facility than tracking them down in our neighborhoods. But the Value Act is setting out, defining what I can do and what I can't do. Yes. And we'll follow the law.
Sheriff Bill Gore also wants to assure the public that the investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against a deputy is moving swiftly. 11 women have accused Sheriff's Deputy Richard Fisher of either groping, fondling, or hugging them inappropriately. The department has opened an investigation and placed Fisher on administrative leave. But several of Fisher's accusers told KPBS last week they think the department has enough evidence to fire Fisher now and arrest him. Sheriff Gore told KPBS News the process is at work.
We're moving through it as fast as we can, but I think it's important for the public to know this deputy is on administrative leave, no police powers, and we're working expeditiously to finish both the investigations, and the facts will be presented to the district attorney's office.
Gore says he expects the investigation to wrap up within 30 days. The Otay Water District has reached a resolution with the developer of Askaya, a master plan community in Otay Ranch. This after methane and other volatile chemicals were found in soil samples. iNews Source reporter Brad Racino has more.
Contractors at the Otay Ranch development first detected the problem in April. That prompted months of testing and back and forth between developer HomeFed and the County Department of Environmental Health and Otay Water District. Water District officials were concerned about issuing water meters because the district will ultimately be responsible for Askaya's pipes and facilities once it's completed. They wanted assurances from HomeFed that the water district wouldn't be held responsible if the chemicals at the site damaged that infrastructure in the future. Well, they got it, and Otay will authorize the selling and installation of the water meters soon. As for the methane, HomeFed told iNewsSource it's been fully disclosed to homebuyers, and mitigation measures have been done at every home offered for sale. HomeFed also plans to mitigate every lot where methane and chemicals were detected. The County Department of Environmental Health has said that as long as the Iskaya development is properly mitigated, the methane and volatile chemicals pose no danger to human health. The next step for HomeFed is determining the source of where those chemicals are coming from. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino.
For more information on this story, go to inewssource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Republicans scrambled to avoid a government shutdown this weekend. Today, the House and Senate passed a temporary measure to keep government agencies open through January 19th. It also covers 3 months of funding for a health insurance program that covers nearly 9 million children. The measure now goes to the president's desk.
But this time, I'd simply want to ask the Senate Pro Tem, Senator Hatch, to join me in enrolling in signing this legislation.
Republicans on Capitol Hill celebrated the passage of their massive tax bill. The measure includes the biggest tax changes in a generation. The cuts will come at a price, though. The Congressional Budget Office predicts the legislation will add $1.5 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. Healthcare advocates say they're deeply concerned about the effects of the new federal tax bill. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the measure eliminates a crucial part of the Affordable Care Act.
The tax bill repeals the provision that Americans must either buy health insurance or pay a penalty. The Congressional Budget Office says as a result, up to 1.8 million Californians could lose their health coverage by 2025. The agency also estimates insurance premiums will increase an average of 10% a year. Dr. Sandra Hernandez is president of the California Healthcare Foundation. She says eliminating the individual mandate is a bad move.
It really does significantly destabilize the insurance markets for a large swath of individuals across the country and in California.
Hernandez says the tax bill will also create pressure on lawmakers to cut safety net programs like Medicare and Medicaid. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
California will pick a new governor next year, and as it stands now, many voters are up for grabs. A new poll released by Berkeley IGS shows 28% of likely voters are undecided. Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom and former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa have the most traction so far, with 26 and 17% respectively.
There's a bunch of candidates who are really struggling to crawl into this and make something of themselves. We don't have somebody walking in with just massive name ID or a massive checkbook.
The primary election will be held in June. The top 2 vote-getters, regardless of party affiliation, will advance to the general election. California is awaiting a response from President Donald Trump after requesting disaster assistance Wednesday in relation to the Thomas Fire. If Trump declares the Thomas Fire a major disaster, the state could expect federal help with cleanup and recovery efforts. The fire started early this month and has burned about 425 square miles. It's estimated that about 1,000 homes have been destroyed and 2 people have been killed. The October wildfires in Northern California damaged some 14,000 homes and caused billions of dollars in losses. And the fallout isn't over. Pacific Gas and Electric's stock took a dive today after the utility company said it would suspend quarterly dividends on its common stock. PG&E chairman said the move was prompted by uncertainty over whether the company would be found liable for the wildfires. Regulators in the past have hit the state's utilities with tens of millions of dollars in fines related to wildfires. The first official day of winter brought a few showers and cooler temperatures, but dry weather and clear skies are back. Erin Calandra explains in tonight's forecast.
Thank you, Ebony. Hopefully everyone had a nice day today. It was a bit breezy in San Diego, and then those high-prone areas for winds and the passes, deserts and mountains. We did see some gusts up to 40 miles per hour, so still a bit windy around here. And we are still under a high fire danger, but most of the risk is now to the north of us. So things are pretty quiet across the region. Taking a look at the satellite, we did see a couple showers in places last night with a cold front moving through. Things are a lot drier now. Our humidity has dropped, and things are going to stay pretty clear. Take a look at the southwest. Not much happening, just a bit cooler than it was. For tonight, it's going to be chilly, 42 degrees, clear skies, and that's how it looks across the county. Clear skies for everyone. Borrego Springs, 33 degrees. Mount Laguna down to 28 degrees. Alpine, 34, and Ramona, 30 degrees. Poway coming in at 36 degrees tonight. So if you're going to be outside, make sure you put on a hat and gloves. It's going to be on the cool side. We have less wind coming in on Friday, but still a bit breezy in places. It will be slightly warmer as well. So conditions improving if you like it a little bit warmer. Taking a look at Oceanside, 64 degrees. San Diego, 67 with sunshine. Poway, 70 degrees. Alpine sitting at 65. And Mount Laguna, 50 degrees. Borrego Springs, 65 with sunshine. Along the coast here the next couple of days, it's going to be nice. We'll have plenty of sunshine. Temperatures jumping up to 66 degrees. That's how it will be on Christmas Day. Inland, it's going to be warm as well. We start off at 70. By Sunday, we're at 78 degrees. So sunny, but it will be a bit windy there. Monday, mostly sunny on Christmas and 75 degrees. And in the mountains, we are seeing sunny conditions, although it will be a little bit windy on Sunday. Our temperatures there at 61, and then on Monday for Christmas, 60 degrees, mostly sunny and nice. In the deserts, we are in the 60s, jumping up to the 70s for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Nice conditions. Temperatures are lows overnights in the 40s, so pretty nice conditions here for the holidays. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, how President Trump's judicial appointments could have a lasting influence long after he leaves office. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The head of the Salk Institute is stepping down. Salk Institute President Elizabeth Blackburn says she's retiring and will leave at the end of the summer. The announcement was unexpected. Blackburn was named president 2 years ago. The institute has been grappling with accusations of gender discrimination. Veteran journalist Dan Rather's career spanned more than 5 decades. He has covered watershed moments in U.S. history, from Watergate to the 9/11 attacks. The former anchor of CBS News has built a new audience online. KQED's Thuy Vu talks to Rather about why he thinks President Trump is a, quote, fake news machine.
You've interviewed every president since Eisenhower. How would you describe the presidency today compared to other presidents that you have covered?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is unprecedented. This is not normal. There's an effort to get us to believe, well, this is sort of in the norm with America. No, this is not normal. And increasingly I find people who see what President Trump is doing just say, listen, we're better than this and we know this. But just to use one example, no president in the history of the country, particularly a first-term beginning president, has been so much attacking American institutions. He's attacked the institution of journalism. He's attacked the judicial. He attacked it. His whole. We've never had a president this way. Even President Nixon, who had some tendency in this direction, was not this way. That President Trump's whole being, his whole way of operating is to never apologize, never try to explain, attack, attack, attack. And this is unprecedented in American history.
President Trump has made much of fake news, right? You are, and many of us in journalism, even us here at KQED, have been approached by different forces trying to perpetrate fake news. And you started a digital news site called News and Guts. How do you and your staff go about keeping journalism relevant during this very fragmented era, and also at the same time trying to ferret out fake news and avoid being tricked?
Well, it's always a danger of being tricked, and I'm glad you mentioned newsandguts.com, which is an internet site in which we're trying to do quality journalism of integrity. We try to be on the alert. We try to check things out. You know, there's an old journalism adage, you trust your mother, but you cut the cards, which is a way of saying you check as much as you can. But look, those who seek to perpetrate fake news have a lot of techniques, and nobody can consider themselves absolutely impenetrable. But with ears and guts, we do the best we can. By the way, on the subject of fake news, President Trump talks a lot about fake news. He himself is the source of a lot of fake news. He is a fake news machine in many ways. So when he is constantly, any news he doesn't like, he immediately calls fake news. He has to be called to account for these things. And now we're talking about established facts. For example, he says, well, I had the biggest crowd for the inauguration in history. It's demonstrably untrue. It is, in his phrase, fake news.
And since we're on this topic, I have to ask you about this. You, in 2004, you reported that former President George W. Bush had received preferential treatment during the Vietnam War because of the clout of his father. There were questions about the authenticity of the documents used in that report. You lost your job as CBS anchor shortly thereafter. Were you tricked during that time?
No. And let's see clearly what happened. The story we reported about a young George W. Bush was true. Fact one, his father's influence got him into the so-called Champagne unit of the National Guard. This is a fact. Fact two, after being in the National Guard for a while, he disappeared for a year. You don't disappear in the U.S. military. Never explained. Now, to this day, neither George W. Bush nor anyone close around him has denied that those things are true. They were in an election campaign. Realizing that we had a true story, we reported the truth. They attacked it for the process by which we got to the truth and centered on the documents. What's the purpose of journalism? Journalism is to get to the truth or as close to the truth as humanly possible. You can fault us for the process by which we got to the truth, but don't try to call attention away from the fact, and it is a fact, that we reported a true story.
Let's look ahead. According to some polls, many Americans feel our best days are behind us. How do you feel as you look to the future?
I don't believe it for 1 second. Our best days are not behind us. This is part of my own optimism and hope, which I try to reflect in What Unites Us book, is there's plenty of reason to be optimistic if we do what we need to do as citizens, which is to be informed, to be involved, to be active, to organize, and to get to the polls. Because ultimately, if you want to change the direction of the country, change the leadership of the country, revenge is best served at the ballot box.
Rather also has a new book out entitled What Unites Us: Reflections on Patriotism. You can see more of his interview on kqed.org. It's that time of year for gift giving and cheer. It's also when energetic youth are home for winter break. For them, KPBS reporter Taryn Minto tells us a new mid-city park may have opened just in time.
The skateboard that Junior Rodriguez received for his 14th birthday yesterday is already scuffed from sliding the rail at the new skate facility in City Heights.
Yeah, it's from yesterday because I come here a lot and I spend a lot of my free time here.
It opened just last week, giving Rodriguez and his mother something to be excited about this holiday break.
I'll probably be with my friends playing some video games, which is like my mom doesn't like that.
Pro skater and Stantec Consulting Services project manager Canton Russell helped design the park with the city and another firm. He says the demand from youth encouraged the city to unlock the gates ahead of an official opening.
Because it's like a kid in a candy store. You know, they see it, it looks finished, why can't we ride it? So to be able to let them in before Christmas was really key.
The push for the expansive facility has been going on for years. City Heights resident Terry Stanley says he and other youth working with a local nonprofit began advocating for the space back in 2011. He says skating is a creative outlet that lets youth connect with one another.
It's a way for people to escape their problems, what's happening at home or what's happening in general. It's a sport to self-progress, and it's a sport that you can work as a team, you can work alone too, and you build community as it is.
Russell says that idea of inclusion and progression was behind many of the features included in the city's $5 million project.
You always want to have something that's easy and then advanced because you want to keep people here long term. We wanted to make a timeless design, and I think that's what we've created.
Now, young Rodriguez can slide the rails alongside where 25-year-old Braden Painter works on landing a complicated front blunt big flip. And their community is there to applaud them each along the way. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
The city is working on $10 million in additional upgrades to the park. Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, look up, saving a dazzling night sky in the Midwest, the 14,000 square miles that make up the nation's first international dark sky reserve. And on Midday Edition, just in time for the holiday weekend, a festive kickoff from the San Diego Symphony. Our weekend previews cover the Noel concert. That's tomorrow on KPBS Radio. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.